How's it feel?
Christian, coming off of the Dark Knight trilogy, you were one of Hollywood's most wanted men. You no doubt had your pick of projects. So why did you choose Out of the Furnace to be your first post-Batman role? And as an actor, was it a nice change of pace going from something huge and massive like The Dark Knight Rises to something a bit smaller on scale?
Oh yeah, I always did that with every film. You know, right after we did Batman Begins, I went on to a film called Harsh Times, which was financed entirely by the director remortgaging his house. We shot it in 20 days. And I always liked to do that because it takes a great deal of stamina to do, you know, the big Batman style movies. And for me, I've never really given a damn, you know, whether I do a big movie, a small movie, it's just whatever interests me. And, you know, Scott Cooper and his script really interested me.
So it was a conscious decision to do something a bit smaller after you came off The Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that had I gone into something really with a long schedule, I would have just been banging my head against the wall going, I can't do it, you know, because it just does take rejuvenation of excitement again and again. But as for strategy, I have no strategy whatsoever. I just do whatever interests me.
And one of the things I found really interesting about this film is that usually you're known for bringing a very intense physicality to your roles, but here in Out of the Furnace, you're often the most calm and still person in the room, and even without saying anything, you're able to project such a sense of authority, and I think that really speaks to your brilliance as an actor.
No, thanks, mate.
Of course. So I'm just wondering, can you speak about how you manage that, and also just as an actor in general, how do you know when to overplay or underplay a moment?
Well, hopefully, you know, it's overplay or underplay moment, but then also remember this, that, you know, sometimes you'll give different options to the director and then they choose it in the edit room, you know, and I'm a great believer in that, you know, because if I've got no interest in directing, but if I was going to direct, I'd want to have a very big choice, you know. I would consider principal photography is just getting all the choices you can so that you can really put together the film in the edit room, but you know, with any character is always having some internal conversation. It just depends whether they actually vocalize it or not. So regardless of whether they're quiet or loud, there's a conversation going on that can be very rampant, you know, within their own selves. And with Russell, that's all that it was. He was absolutely having a very turbulent conversation. He just didn't express it.
And one of the things I really loved about Out of the Furnace is that all the relationships between the characters felt so real and genuine. And one scene that really sticks out to me is when you and Zoe were on the bridge and she's telling you she's pregnant, and it's just such a heartbreaking moment, and you both hit that scene out of the park.
Oh, thanks.
Of course. And I was just wondering, did you have a lot of time to rehearse, not just with her, but with Casey, with Woody? Was there a lot of rehearsal time before you actually...
No, we didn't. You know, we didn't like rehearsing. We didn't do that. We just filmed whatever the rehearsal was. And, you know, what was nice is that we knew we never had a lot of time, and so we just got right to it. And, you know, so, you know, like with that scene with Zoe, we didn't really know exactly what was going to happen, but I realized during it that it's a man seeing all of his dreams and hopes for his life completely obliterated, and so it's an absolute stunning moment for him. And you know, likewise with Casey, we had to film this very quickly. I only met Casey really briefly at a camera test once we were out in Pittsburgh, and then we did all the prison sequences within 2 days straight away. And you know, if you just got good actors, it happens, it works out, and the environment's correct. And the great thing with this film was the environment was 100% correct, so it wasn't like it was a studio soundstage where, you know, you couldn't move too much. You could go 360 and everything was bang on. And that really helps with your performances.
You hear me, Petty? You better start following through on your promise. For 25 grand, you better control. I ought to put a piece of lead in your ass and take everything in.
John, you back here? Oh, I'm sorry. Should I come back later? Or?
No, it's okay. We're finishing up.
Your mom teach you to barge in like that?
You got a problem with me?
I got a problem with that, buddy.
Scott, I found it interesting how you chose to open this film in that you don't show Christian's character first, you introduce us first to Woody's character, which is a bit out of the norm for movies. Usually we see the protagonist or the hero first.
Almost always, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So was that a conscious decision, and why did you decide to do that?
Every decision I made in this film was conscious, for sure. Probably overly conscious. A couple of reasons. One, so that you don't kind of resort to tropes and formulas and you subvert expectations, much like you just mentioned. More importantly, having an actor that's an American institution that we've seen in so many different roles, but never like this, alert the audience that this is a part you've never seen Woody Harrelson play, and this is a type of film that may not be exactly what you thought it was.
And Woody, this is by far one of the most ruthless characters you've ever played, and given some of your past roles, I mean, obviously Natural Born Killers comes to mind right away. It's definitely saying a lot, but at the same time, as ruthless as he is, he's so terrifyingly believable. And I was wondering if you could just speak a bit how you really tapped into him and how you brought out the menace in him.
Well, you know, I think the writing was really, it was already there on the page, and I kind of made a decision, I think, in concert with Scott that not to try to make this character at all likable, you know, because usually, like even with Natural Born Killers, you can see, you know, try to throw in some little things to make you like him better, you know, and with this one, we kind of dispensed with that. Although, you know, he did have like 3 little vulnerable moments throughout, but
Moments that show a human side to who Harlan DeGroat really is.
And I had read that you actually kept journals while you were on set that you wrote from the perspective of Harlan. Can you tell us a bit about those and how those helped you too?
yeah, you know, I generally do that. It kind of helps just put you in the mindset of the character.
So what exactly would you write?
Yeah, I mean, it's so boring to write that, to talk about that stuff. But,
Well,
you know, I
probably
did ask him for things about the, you know, the backstory, and I'd, you know, write things about childhood and stuff.
And Scott, in both of your films, music has played a huge role, obviously more so in Crazy Heart, but here the score, the soundtrack, it really adds a lot out of the furnace. Can you speak a bit about what goes into choosing the music for your films and how you got Pearl Jam and Eddie Vedder involved as well?
Yeah, music's one of the most important things in my life. I start my day off, my young girl's day off, by listening to classical music. As Shakespeare said, it soothes the savage beast, right? So I start the day that way. And then I typically move into something a little more aggressive. And then as I'm writing, I always write from a very character standpoint. You think, what's the type of music that Christian Bale, who's 40 years old, what is he listening to? What really formed his artistic worldview? Well, when he was 24, he probably was listening to Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Nirvana so that he could release some of that angst. And at that point, that song became very important to me, release about the death of a father. And of course, this character is going through that very thing. I reached out to Eddie Vedder, didn't know him. He liked Crazy Heart, invited me up to Seattle to see the film before he would allow the song to be used. He'd never let it be used for any commercial purposes at all. And he was very moved by the film. And not only did he give us the song, he also re-recorded it for the first time in 23 years. And a great friendship, most importantly, a great friendship emerged from that.
And when you got the script, it had already been in development for a while, and you did a rewrite on it. So I'm just wondering, when you got it, which parts did you change the most, and what was your most significant addition to the script?
I changed everything. The only thing that it really shares is the font.
So it was a completely different story?
Utterly.
Okay. And also, the way you depict this town of Braddock, and the people who live in it, and the people who live in the surrounding areas, like Woody's character, you don't shine them in the best light. Are you worried about how they might feel that you're portraying them, or the response from them?
Well, I take responsibility. Those are my people. I grew up in a very small blue-collar town. My grandfather was a coal miner. I can't write about wealthy people because I don't know them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Good questions, man.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ronnie Baze's brother.
I keep on searching.
I ain't leaving without him.
I keep on searching.
We're gonna get one shot at this guy.
I keep on searching.
Forgive me my sins, O Lord. The sins of my youth, the sins of my age, the sins of my soul.
I keep on searching.
We're brothers, and we're all we got.